Okay, here we go. Thank you. I wanted to actually start by properly welcoming Mackie, who wasn't able to join us yesterday for the whole thing. Things intervened, but just try and make you feel a bit welcome today. So I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Mackie. What most of us did yesterday, or what we did yesterday to start, was to introduce ourselves to just to kind of feel a bit at home and, say our name and what it was that we hoped to get from this session or these sessions, this course. So, this morning, I guess I'd like to invite you, Mackie, when you're ready, if you want to also to introduce yourself to people, but also to say to people, just again, hello. And if there's anything in particular, either that you took away from yesterday, anything that really struck you, or anything that you really, really are keen to cover today that you hope doesn't get forgotten or left out. So maybe we can do that kind of one by one. And if you kind of unmute yourselves and then sort of dob the next person, choose the next person to speak. So I'm hoping we're all right with that. So just very briefly, for myself, I'm Lynne, and been leading this course. And I hoped for the course that by really kind of quite forensically investigating what we mean by compassion, what it is, what it isn't, how it can go wrong and things like that, how we can get confused, what the problems are, that we would be able to sort of highlight it in our lives so that we recognize it and value it, I guess, which actually everybody already did. I guess you wouldn't be here otherwise. But also kind of find ways, share ways together of cultivating a greater level of compassion in our lives. We all have some kind of compassion, and it can be helpful. In fact, we're going to look into that today. I suggest it is very helpful if we can cultivate a greater level of compassion in our lives, so we can extend it further to more people, and it can last longer. It can be more resilient in the face of difficulties, and therefore, we can kind of the two sort of ways of going about that. I think one is to build up our resilience and our understanding, so that we can allow our natural compassion to shine through, of which people say that we have limitless reserves of inner compassion, but it doesn't always feel like that. And we've talked about how sometimes we completely get run down, we get exhausted by situations that demand compassion. And so there are, the suggestion is, and we'll look at that again today, that we can block our compassionate response, or we can respond in a less skillful way. So the idea, part of what we were doing yesterday, was to look at different ways that we may block compassion, different reasons that we may block the compassion that we have. Some, perfectly valid. It's not that we're doing it intentionally, but it's a way of, we see it as a way of self-protection, which we need to do. And we also, one of the things that was really important to me that came out from yesterday is the idea that there is a sort of a spectrum of wisdom in our compassion. So there's sort of idiot compassion on one end, as it's called by one teacher, which is, just let everybody beat me up, do what they want. It doesn't matter, I'm compassionate. And then there's kind of really skillful, wise compassion on the other that recognizes that I'm equally deserving of compassion, from myself and from others. But also it's not compassionate to let other people abuse me, or abuse those I care about, for my own sake and for the sake of those I care about, but also for the sake of the abuser. It's not wise or indeed compassionate to allow somebody to carry on unchecked in abuse. So sometimes quite strong measures might be necessary. So that was the main thing that I thought. I'm glad that came out yesterday. So yeah, so in terms of uh, introducing ourselves, I wonder, Mackie, if it's possible, it's entirely up to you, but it'd be really nice to be able to see you as well as you're here with us.
I can put my camera. I think it's on.
Okay, it is on.
Is it
Yeah,
on?
that's
Okay.
great.
Hi.
Hi,
Morning.
hi there. Thanks.
I'm
Thank
Maki.
you.
I'm sorry I was late yesterday. There's something happened in the morning and that needed immediate attention that I couldn't attend as I wished. So with that, I guess what um I've been practicing Buddhism for several years, and I'm particularly interested. What attracted me to it is this idea of non-duality, that the self and the other doesn't exist as we perceive. And part of that, of course, is compassion. I've been doing a lot of Tonglen practice in terms of relating to others and taking others' pain and things like this. But I always get stuck with this kind of acknowledging self-compassion that you were talking about just now. And I'm interested, and I'm perhaps almost desperate to figure out, especially in the condition that we live now in this kind of lockdown pandemic situation, how to keep cultivating that so that we don't lose that sense of, um, you know, I can only be compassionate if I can be compassionate to myself. That sense I tend to lose very fast. So that's what I'm interested in learning a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you very much. Would you like to choose a name at random for somebody to take over? You need to unmute again. Sorry.
I don't think I have to say anything. The last things you said are exactly what I feel. It was gentle, it was nurturing, and it was informative, and that was really useful. And that's really what I wanted from this weekend. And also, as I said, I think yesterday, I wanted to do something gentler, because, I mean, Lynne knows, we've been doing a lot of study. We really have. And it's brilliant. But I didn't want the study emphasis. I wanted more the interaction with like-minded people and sharing and consolidating, if you like, on what we're really trying to do. So thank you. I choose Avril, please, because she's next to me on the screen.
Thank you, Anne. Yeah, this is quite personal. What happened yesterday, it was the most odd thing. I got a phone call from this person from way back in my past. She actually had rang the night before, and then she rang in the middle of our session yesterday, and this person troubles me. And so I just kept thinking compassion, because this person has a tendency to cause trouble with their talk. And I was wary as soon as I heard her voice. It brought it all back from way back of all these things. And I just, I've been doing so many lovely Zoom courses on compassion and wisdom and resilience in the eye of the storm and great stuff, neuroscience. And yeah, I'm getting, And then as soon as that voice came in, I thought, oh, fear, panic. She's going to and she's clever, but manipulative. So I just thought, how am I going to handle this? And she said, oh, I'll have to come over and see you. And everything is saying, stay away. And I'm still not sure how to deal with it, but I just thought, right, she's, I show compassion, but yeah, interesting, Lynne, the idiot compassion. I have to be careful. So yeah, still working on that, but yeah, compassion for oneself, for her. Anyway, so it was really strange that she would ring, the night before the course, during the course, and I just thought, what's this all about? This is a real test. Anyway, but thank you, really enjoying it and being with others too. It's fantastic. So thank you. I'll pass
you.
on to Sue's below me. So there we go, Sue.
Thank you, Avril. Morning, everyone. Yes, I really got a lot out of yesterday. I found it very holding. It felt very safe, and just tremendous to be with people who, you know, there are some kind of like common threads for us all, which is always very comforting, but also some differences, and so, you know, you learn from both of those things, don't you? And I particularly enjoyed the I was going to say medication meditation, because it just felt so nurturing. It was just lovely to have time to sit and to be and to do whatever I wanted to in the meditation. And afterwards, I took myself off for a long walk in the hills. I'm really lucky to live in a beautiful place like Bath and near the hills, and off I toodly picked for nearly 3 hours, and came back. I mean, I think during my walk, what I did was to access my kind of like internal supervisor. And when I came back, in my notepad, I kind of just made some notes to myself, all in relation to looking after myself more in the future. So, you know, clearly yesterday and the walk just enabled me to jot it down. And I love writing things down. Kind of like makes it concrete, hard to keep it in your head. So I felt quite excited about that. I know that sounds a bit weird, but yeah, so something shifted and changed yesterday. It was delightful. Thank you. And I'll pass to Elizabeth. That was random. There's no order.
Hello, everybody. I try not to melt down today. It was full moon yesterday, remember, Avril, so, you know, all kind of things happen. Yesterday and actually last night, it was actually a beautiful full moon, but I slept better, so I feel more myself today. Funnily enough, today I'm more in a more quiet setting. My mum is over with me to keep to take care of me as well, and she took a lot of you know, she put a lot of pressure on her to make sure I am on my best, as you can see. And as soon as I did unlocking your potential course or this course, and I switch off the computer, and suddenly, you know, I get attacked. You know, she's a lovely person. I mean, she's a lovely person. She's quite judgmental. I love my mom. I have a lot of compassion with her. To her, we do get on, but there's something like that. She you know, I was kept repeating me, okay, she's like that, and always going to be. You know, she's 77 this year. And I'm thinking, she's not going to change. So I was keeping repeating that to me. And I forgot to thank her for the lesson. So I'll try to do that. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about dealing with difficult person, and that's my difficult person. And I am with her most of the time, apart from today, where I withdraw to my partner, and I do struggle. Because I don't know how, you know, I try to ask her to think positively, or to try to explain about changing your thought and all that. It's it can be, sometimes it can be heavy, and when it's constant and it's all the time, sometimes I feel like bullied. And there is time where I just blow up because I can't cope anymore. Just like, just stop, please stop. but that's the situation I'm facing. So I'll try to develop more, you know, and the fact that to go back to she's like that.
Mhm.
But so I'm looking at today's again and having a more grateful setting for the meditation and being able to be more.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So thank you to everybody. A lot of love from just there. Beautiful sunshine today again. So
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it because yesterday I had to go to sleep after I was naked.
Okay, so who would you like to?
Who have we got? Oh
Monica and Faye, is it?
no, we've got Faye, Monica, and Tracy. Allez, Tracy, get ready.
Hi, thank you. I really enjoyed yesterday too. It felt like a retreat, even though I had quite a lot booked in yesterday. I did have to go out yesterday afternoon. And it was a busy day, but there's some quality of a retreat about yesterday. So that was lovely, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think it hit the mark of being working much more with the heart rather than the head, which was what I wanted, I think. And I think for me, things click more, or when they're experiential, when I get the felt sense of something. So I really enjoyed that, and I loved the video, and I also loved the concept of stretching yourself, you know, going as far as you can and then just stretching it. So that's going to really stick with me, I think.
All right, yeah.
I felt that was really lovely and really practical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for today, more of the same, please. Just
okay.
yeah, a lovely felt retreat and some gentle learning would be fantastic. And yeah, thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Who's next?
And over to Faye.
Hi, morning everybody. Oh, I must say it's so lovely to be able to be part of this amazing group. A lot of the things that you've already said, you said them. I had the thoughts, and you already said. So I totally get what everybody's saying, and it's really great to be part of the course. Yeah, I think compassion. I'm thinking that I totally agree with Avril about the people who challenge you, the people that you get the lesson from. So yeah, I definitely take that away, and it's been good to take part in learning skills to manage things like that. But hopefully I'll see you in person at the Land of Joy at some point. I look forward to that. Can I pass it on to Monica, please?
Thank you. Thanks, Faye.
I love the poems. I just love the poetry, and I love the way you brought it in. I used to read a lot of poetry in my younger days, and I keep thinking I must go back to it because it really, really, it's so soul enriching. And so yesterday I really loved it. That was just beautiful, and I love the meditations also. And what I like, what everybody has said is that it was so gentle. You didn't feel like, oh, I'm sitting. Actually, we did around an hour of meditation, but the way it was done like very, very. It just went so like it was like going with the flow. The whole thing was going with the flow, which I really liked. With today's concern, and this is really uh, one of the issues that I have is because I live in India and I'm an Indian, and we see so much of there's a starkness. You've been to India, so you just see that starkness. It's like confronting you all the time, and it's like so difficult to take the pain of others. I just feel like I keep seeing suffering. Like even when I'm sleeping at night, the last thing that goes into my head is there are people who are homeless and they don't even have a place to sleep. Like if it's cold, then I feel like they don't even have like something to cover, a blanket to cover themselves with. So like every time I'm eating, I just think of how many people are starving and dying because they don't have that one morsel to eat. So it's like sometimes like the taking in that suffering that is there around you is so overwhelming, and then sometimes it leads to guilt. It leads to guilt all the time, but it also leads to anger at times. And I really, I feel one needs to, and it's okay to talk about self-compassion and all that in a intellectual way, but when you're confronted with people who have really next to nothing, like they just have bare existence, and you are so privileged and you don't even like know what you've done to deserve it. So that's when it's like really, one, how do you develop self-compassion in that circumstance? So that is really what I would be happy to kind of move towards today. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you, everybody. So, yeah, I'm hoping in the last session, Monica, to look particularly at, it may come up before, but to look particularly at, in the face of so much suffering that's out there in the world, what can we do that is most skillful? I mean, clearly we can't end all the suffering, I can't do that, you can't do that. We can do what we can. And I guess for me, just briefly before I start, sort of the notion of or one of the things that came in the sort of thinking in between sort of yesterday and just checking up today is that the greatest self-compassion that we can have, I've kind of in my head got them separate. Yesterday was compassion, today was self-compassion. But of course, the greatest self-compassion we can have, I think, or one of them, is to protect ourselves from being overwhelmed by compassion. Partly out of, because it's painful and because it's difficult and because it's adding more suffering, but also because it doesn't do any good. It really doesn't do any good to ourselves, and particularly not to those people who are out there living on the streets and suffering. So it's how we, but that is a very sort of delicate balance or an incredible skill, and it's not easy. So we'll be looking at that, I hope, very much, and do what we can with that. I don't have any answer, any magic. There is no magic bullet. It's a process. Again, another thing that kind of struck me is actually that I'm beginning to kind of get the notion that maybe compassion, if we think about it, not so much as a thing or even a state of mind, but more of a process. It's there are various stages in it that we go through, that kind of lead us through from one side to the other, to be from the we talked yesterday about the difference between empathy. Well, first of all, remember there were those three stages of compassion. There's the actual being aware enough to acknowledge, being mindful, to acknowledge, to see, to recognize, and then to acknowledge that yes, this exists, suffering in ourselves and in others. That's the first stage, and we don't always manage that. Not everybody does. And then there's empathy. There's that resonance. There's that sort of sort of trembling, like strings on a guitar kind of thing. You pluck one and the ones next to it kind of resonate, and there is that resonance in our heart and our mind and brain function even, that we feel with the other person. And we feel our own, we acknowledge it, we recognize it, and if we get stuck there, that's what Mathieu Ricard, the French monk, said so well in his article, which I think they've now uploaded. Anyway, I've given it to them to do. If we get stuck there in empathy, then we get worn down, we get exhausted, we can end up in despair. So we need to move to the next stage to be really skillful. And the next stage is how in this tradition they describe compassion. It's that will to help, and actually behind that will to help, what the article, Mathieu's article, really helped me to understand. My current understanding is seeing it in the bigger picture, and it's touching what Mackie he sort of mentioned at the beginning. But it's bringing our wisdom to bear on the suffering that is in front of us or in our own mind. It's seeing the bigger picture, recognizing that we said yesterday that suffering is a part of life. Nobody has not suffered, that's how it is. And if there is something we can do about it, to alleviate it, then wonderful. Then we will be helping whoever is suffering, and we will be helping ourselves as well. We will, it's very empowering to be able to reach out and help people. But the other part, the wisdom part perhaps more, is recognizing that when we can't, there's nothing that we can practically do. There's nothing that we can practically do to help that person. If we gave all our money away, if we gave up all our all our wealth, all our privileges, or everything else, suffering would still exist. That's just the way it is. What we can do always is come back to our own mind and try to preserve a sense of balance in our own mind. A sense of care, to not close off, which can be a response. I think, Leslie, you talked about that yesterday and today. And sometimes in our work, if we are overwhelmed by the suffering that we see, it's very tempting to kind of close off. I've got to be professional. I've got to to not feel this. Now, clearly, we have to, to work as well as we can and as professionally as we can, but to try cutting off our feeling, we can do it for a while, but in my experience, it comes back to bite you. In the end, we can't cut off part of our humanity. So it's a matter of finding skillful ways of dealing with it. One of the things that I said yesterday and seems to have resonated with people, which we'll go into now, I think, is that simple mindful breathing is probably the best act of compassion for ourselves, and thereby compassion for others. That we can do a regular practice, we can do a 10 minutes practice in the morning or whatever, but also throughout the day, when we get that phone call that scares, takes us right back. We can, Thich Nhat Hanh, if you've read any of the Buddhist, the Vietnamese Buddhist teacher, we can at any time go back to the breath. We pick up the phone, we hear the voice, we take 1 or 2 deep breaths. Oh, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, no, and whatever. And then we're already in a slightly better position. It's still going to be difficult. Life is messy. That's how it is. It's still going to be difficult. We'll get it right some days, we'll get it wrong another day. But coming back to the breath always, I found, and I'm not alone, I know in this, is a really good way of just connecting with our own, better qualities and our own better aspirations. And therefore, it's going to give us that slightly skillful edge that we wouldn't have otherwise had. So that's my firm belief. So let's do a bit of meditation now, shall we? Together. So if you'd like to, well, you're all muted, that's good. If you want to get into a posture, if you want to close your camera off, that's also fine. And so even how you kind of approach the meditation, it can be so instructive, really, to see how we, if we sit rigidly or if we kind of sit gently, but with an openness, with an awareness. That can be really, we can, even sitting down to do meditation, we can practice sitting down with gentleness and kindness. So pay attention, kind and gentle attention to your body. So get a posture that is supportive of meditation, and also to be gentle and kind with your body, and to notice any aches or pains or any tension, and kindly let it go as you can with the out breath. And then as we're ready, we narrow our focus down, the focus of our awareness down, merely to the sensation of breathing, without judgment, without trying to interfere. The body really knows how to breathe. It's been doing it a long time. So just pay kind attention to what happens in the body when you breathe. And if you're like me, you'll also observe by now that the mind is not used to sitting still, being still. And so it gets pulled away, involved in other thoughts, plans, memories, fears. That's what it does. That's what it's been doing since forever. So in the same way that you would gently train a young puppy, kindly and gently, whenever you realize you've completely lost the breath, gently bring it back and start again. Don't worry about thoughts or imaginings that just drift by. They'll disappear of their own accord. But when you're kind of sucked in and you notice, actually rejoice that you've noticed. That's mindfulness at work. You're training your mindful muscle. And then kindly and gently come back to the breath. And gently end the meditation when you're ready. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit, but hopefully, you know, actually, if anybody wants to add anything or join in or question anything, then if you just raise your hand, then it might be nice to kind of get a more ongoing kind of dialogue as we had before, perhaps. So I decided in my notes, I divided it up between benefits of compassion in general and benefits of compassion for oneself. But as I said earlier, as I've been thinking about this, seems to me that, you know, it's a false dichotomy. Obviously, it's the division. Yeah, doesn't need to be there. But clearly, you know, scientifically, they also recognise that there are benefits to our developing our compassion. And again, I do want to say quite clearly, you know, we have the notion, as somebody reminded us, you know, that small steps of growth. You know, I think Tracy, wasn't it, that you know, do the best you can and then do a little bit more. But also, I'd add to that, you know, there's do as far as you want as well. You know, I can be a bit enthusiastic sometimes when I'm talking about these qualities. You know, we can develop them to their utmost extent, and their utmost extent, the various teachings tell us, is vast, beyond our wildest imaginings, actually. But you know, we are where we are, and you know, there may be you know, there may be things that you know, there may be limits beyond which we don't want to go, and that's absolutely fair enough. We did that last meditation yesterday on trying to equalize, see the common humanity in, you know, the friend, the enemy, and the stranger, and that's the basis of the Maki's meditation that she was talking about, which we'll have a go at later. But it may be that we don't want to do that, and you know, that's our choice, it's our life. So you know, don't feel that you're in any way failing because of that. Seeing clearly, again, is a thing that I think has come out really strongly for me in this process. Seeing clearly, being honest with ourselves about where we're at, what we're capable of, what we want to do, as well as seeing clearly as we can, the ongoing situations that we're involved in, that we are reacting to. Those two aspects, wisdom and compassion, that are so important in life, I think. So, you know, clearly there are benefits. We are, you know, sort of evolutionary science has now recognized that, as well as this will to, you know, to pass forward our genes, you know, one of the ways we do that, it's not survival of the fittest in terms of dog eat dog, or it's not, you know, there's an element of that clearly in human nature, but it's also, you know, humans evolved by collaboration, as a result of collaboration and care. That is as deeply part of our nature as you know, competition. In fact, probably deeper. In fact, I was reading an article the other day in the paper, and you know, sort of the scientists, they make me laugh sometimes. They come up with these great discoveries, which are great. You know, don't knock it, but you kind of think, yeah, of course. You know, why did you think otherwise? And they're saying, you know, that they've discovered that, you know, the idea of compassion goes back to the deepest, oldest part of our brain, is it amygdala or whatever it's called? You know, the so-called lizard brain. That compassion actually is one of the earliest parts of the brain to develop. Now, clearly there's a link between the brain and the mind, and you kind of think, yeah, no, that's good that you've got there, but you know, why did it take you so long? Kind of thing. Anyway, that's me. That's my one of my particular bugbears. But we know, there have been experiments carried out with children of a very young age that Jimper in his book that I mentioned yesterday shows, from a very young age, it's a natural childhood response to help if they see somebody who appears to be in trouble, another child or even an adult. And we feel good, when we're able to help people, especially if people are going through a difficult time. We naturally feel pain, share their pain, as we said, to a degree. And if there's anything that we can do to help, clearly it makes us feel good too. It helps us. The help us high. Of course, that happens. So why wouldn't we want to do that? And if we think about why that might be, and it's to do with that connection that is so important to us, that connectivity between humans, that what we all share, as that the late MP said, what we share is so much more than what divides us. And it's true. It used to drive me nuts sometimes when I was a primary school teacher, and in science and in art and things like that, do self-portraits and the focus would always be on the differences. And I've always worked in very multiracial, multicultural schools, and the focus somehow would often, or not always, but often be on, celebrating difference, which is nice. It was a positive way. But actually, as a Buddhist myself, I would always try to bring back the emphasis. Yeah, we're different. We've got different color, shaped eyes, different color skin, different hairs and things like that. But actually, we've got so much more in common. We all see through our eyes, we all smell through our noses, we all hear through our ears, to a greater or lesser degree, that. But what we have in common is what we need to. I think as an educator, I always thought and still think that we need to emphasize that more than the differences. And for the benefits to accrue in society, really, for us to be able to reach across those boxes like we saw in the film yesterday, go beyond them. It frees us from feeling isolated, from feeling alone, from feeling from being self-absorbed, from being sort of so wrapped up in our own problems that we can't we can't find a way out. It's a bit like being sort of tied up in knots. If we kind of can take a step back and recognize that other things are going on in the world apart from our problems and difficulties, not in a way, we can sometimes, I've done this myself quite a lot. I've got a problem or a difficulty or a pain, I've got a headache. Oh no, it's terrible, I don't want this headache, and it's just, stop whinging. Other people are in so much worse, positions than you are. People are dying of cancer and this, that, and the other. That's not compassionate. That's not particularly wise, is it really? It's, yeah, I've got a headache. I really wish I didn't have this headache. Yeah. I wonder how so-and-so feels. They, they're struggling with cancer at the moment. I wonder how they are. It's a whole different approach that, we can use anything to beat ourselves up if we really put our mind to it. So often, sadly, we do. So again, that's part of, remembering compassion for ourselves, I think. If we do, it also helps, say, kind of to open us up to others, to make those to make those links by recognizing what we share, shared experiences, as well as our shared common humanity. Then I think the world becomes actually a less threatening place. My big hero, the Dalai Lama, he says whenever he goes to, he gives talks to hundreds of thousands of people, 100,000 people at a time. And what he says is he looks out into that vast sea of people and he sees friends. He sees people like him, just like himself. What an amazing thing that must be. An amazing way that must be to be like that. And how saving of energy. We don't have to protect ourselves. We don't have to set up the barriers. Okay, we're not there yet as far as he is, but again, we can, by being more open to people. Again, just a very trivial example from my life really is I've kind of recognized that when I ring up call centers, if I go in and my expectation is that I'm going to be dealt with straight away and there will be somebody pick up the phone straight away and you know, they will understand, hear what I'm saying and sort out my problem and that's it, then I'm probably going to be disappointed. It's been my experience. If I, you know, ring up with, you know, trying to sort out my broadband at the moment, if I ring up and say, and think, okay, this is going to take a while to forget somebody even to pick up the phone. So why don't I put it on loudspeaker and make a cup of tea and go and sit out in the garden a bit or whatever while I'm waiting. And when somebody does pick it up, they've been dealing with 100 other calls. They may or may not have had a really difficult time from people who've been frustrated from waiting. So, you know, if I just try and be a bit friendly towards them and, you know, recognize the situation they're in, actually, you know, and this is a new discovery on my part within the last year, but it's a totally different experience, and it's a much more pleasant experience for me. You know, it's recognizing that humanity and the you know, the benefits are basically mine. And people, you know, people like us more. You know, we get more friends. You know, simple as that. If we can be compassionate, if we can come from a place of compassion in our life. So that means, you know, we, in order to do that, and this is where it, you know, the border between our compassion generally and compassion for self is becomes blurred or disappears, because in order to be able to do that, then we, you know, we need a level of resilience. We need to build up a level of resilience in ourselves, a level of wisdom and understanding and self-acceptance as well. Of, you know, okay, I'm not going to get it right all the time. Sometimes I am in a hurry and I can't kind of wait, you know. But you know, it's so the particular benefits of self-compassion. And from, again, taking a quote from the book that I said yesterday, the Fearless Heart book by Jimpa, he says, truly compassionate people take care of themselves while being attentive to the feelings and needs of those around them. So interesting, his, you know, the order that he puts them in. In fact, the mental and physical health that comes from being kind to ourselves enables us to better take care of others. And you've probably heard, you know, sort of mention the when you're in an aeroplane and they go through the safety things, the oxygen mask, put your own on first before you help your children or the people around you. So that's what, you know, that's the role of self-compassion. It's putting on our own oxygen mask. It's looking after ourselves in order to be able to better help others, and we get the benefits too. And if we don't if we don't manage that, then it can be at the root of anxiety disorders, burnout, relationship problems, poor motivation, and then harsh and judgmental attitudes towards ourselves as well, for not measuring up, which is ridiculous. Not measuring up, not being perfect is what we actually mean a lot of the time. And some of the symptoms, I'll just say a few more things, but some of the symptoms that we might recognize from where, you know, we need to work a bit more on self-compassion is we can see ourselves as losers, as unworthy of recognition and love. That can be an element in the way that we regard ourselves, quite deep down maybe, but it can be there. A symptom that that we can see quite clearly often is that when we're talking to ourselves or others about ourselves, we generalize. I always do this. This always happens to me. I'll never be able to do this, that, or the other. Or we personalize it again. You know, so this went wrong, so I'm a loser. There's a story that I think it's Sharon Salzberg tells of somebody who was on a meditation retreat. I think she was telling the story of Joseph Goldstein, another mindfulness teacher, was telling this story. It's his story that within their retreats they have times when people come in and have individual conversations with the teacher, and Joseph Goldstein tells the story of this man who came in and he says, well, how are you doing the meditation? He says, oh, he said, it's terrible. He said, terrible. My back hurts and I can't do this and I should never have come. And actually, you know, people will think I can't do it. And I don't know why I put myself in this position. And Joseph Goldstein says, so I think you're saying your back hurts. he said, yeah, my back hurts and I can't do this and I don't know why I came and people will think I'm useless and I can never do this thing. And Joseph Goldstein said, I think you're saying your back hurts. And that's that. Do we recognize that? That can be something that we can do. We add, like we said, yes, we mentioned yesterday, there is pain. My back hurts. There is difficulty. We can acknowledge that. But what we often can do is really just add so much else to that, overlay that. And that is a real symptom of lacking compassion for ourselves and lacking wisdom, really. Yeah. And actually another symptom is when good things do happen, we feel like we don't deserve it, that we might have to pay later. It kind of makes us nervous when good things do happen to us or people say nice things to us. We can feel they talk now, don't they, about the imposter syndrome. Even, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who seems to be doing a wonderful job from this side of the ocean, says she suffers incredibly from imposter syndrome. How come she's there doing all this stuff? She does, what's so special about her, kind of thing. But that again, it's, well, why not? Why isn't my best good enough? So we can't relax even a little bit, we might feel. And because if we do, then we won't accomplish anything. Or we won't accomplish, or what we mean is we won't accomplish these ridiculously high ideals that we've set ourselves. Actually, Monica mentioned the poems, which I've introduced into this, but one of there's another poem that I just remember a couple of lines from that really struck me. And it says, what if, this is a paraphrase, what if the question were not, why can I not be the person that I so want to be? But what if the question instead were, why am I not happy with the person that I so clearly am? That can be a useful question to ponder actually ourselves. It's not why am I not the person that I so want to be? Clearly, if we're on a journey of growth, we can see room for improvement. But really fundamental to that, or before going that, is why am I so unhappy with the person that I am right now? So the benefits of that are that we can renew our resources, we can develop resilience, we can recharge our batteries through caring for ourselves. We can be of greater benefit. We can set more realistic goals for ourselves instead of these ridiculously high perfectionist ideals. As a teacher, I used to just marvel at kids who seem to have everything going for them, were bright, were popular, were good looking, seemed to have lovely family, lovely personalities, and yet they were often troubled. And what it came down to was, in their eyes, they were troubled because they weren't perfect. I mean, poor things, really, poor things. And we do that ourselves. And again, we feel when having compassion for ourselves, we can feel less alone, less cut off and isolated from others. Yes, I have these problems. Yes, I have these difficulties, and I am not alone. Others have them too. Can I reach out? So instead of, thinking the sort of wailing, why me? Well, that's how it is. Others have them too. We all have them. That's the universal human condition. Okay, so I will stop there. If anybody did raise their hand, I'm sorry, I didn't notice, I got carried away. So let's do a meditation now, from, again, adapted from the Jimper's book, called Accepting Ourselves. So we'll do that for 10 minutes, just before the break. So again, focus on your physical comfort and also alertness and mental comfort. In other words, I'm going to try my best. I'll do the best that I can in the circumstances to follow this meditation. And take 3 to 5 deep breaths, bringing each one all the way down to the belly and then gently releasing it. So recall a time when you felt seen, heard, and recognized by someone who showed you genuine regard and affection. Could have been any expression of concern from someone at a difficult time in your life. Or maybe a sense of everything's right with the world we've felt in the presence of an old friend. Or simply a warm hug. Or it could be a time we spent with someone we loved to be near as a child. Again, it doesn't have to be anything major, but just recognizing a time, long or short, when we felt seen, heard, and recognized with affection. Let this feeling permeate. What characterizes these moments is that they make us feel that we matter. They lift us up, make us feel honored and alive. It needn't be perfect. The key is to evoke the feeling of unconditional acceptance in the presence of someone or something that makes us feel secure and at ease. Let this feeling permeate your mind. You feel completely yourself, nothing more, nothing less. There's no need for pretense. There's no need for you to try to be someone other than yourself. There's no judgment, no critical voice. Instead, what you find is simply acceptance, warm and tender. Dwell on this feeling of bathing in unconditional acceptance. What does it feel like? Do you feel the slowing of your heart? A release of tension somewhere in your body? A sense of letting go? Breathe gently and imagine the feeling of acceptance as a warm light at your heart center. Imagine that rays of light spread out through your body from this heart source, soothing you, easing your suffering, and giving you strength and wisdom. Remain with this feeling for a while, this image. If you need to, you can renew that connection with the person who inspires this feeling in you. Regenerating the light, the warm light at your heart. And repeat the image of the rays suffusing your body into every single cell of your body, inspiring feelings of safety, serenity, and total ease of well-being. And when you're ready, gently bring the meditation to a close. Okay, so with that warm glow still in your heart, if you'd like to go on out and have a cup of tea.